Welcome to The Outlet, an OTG production.
And welcome to the NBA Outlet presented by OTGBasketball.com. Be sure to give us a follow on Twitter at OTG Basketball. And also be sure to follow Ryan Clark VA on Twitter. He does all of our music. He's a DJ here in Harrisonburg, Virginia. Really good guy. Has some awesome beats on his SoundCloud, which he'll provide links to on his Twitter account. So be sure to give him a follow. We want to thank everyone for listening, whether it's on iTunes, SoundCloud, or YouTube. And this is our first official iTunes podcast. So we're still not legit, but it's in the right direction here at OTG. We're really excited about that. My name is Parth. I am the guy on the right of the picture. I'm sure you guys figured that out by the name. And along with me is the boss man, my co-host, Nick Fay, who is on the left. What's going on, Nick?
What's up, Parth? Happy New Year. How you doing, man?
Good. Happy New Year to you as well. I'm happy to start 2016 off with a new OTG weekly podcast.
Yeah, we should have an exciting show today, too.
Yeah, what do we have on it, Nick?
Today we're going to review a little bit about 2015, most memorable moments of the NBA season. We're going to take a look at your NBA resolutions. Then we're going to take a look at the new OTG ranking page, and as well, our favorite games of the week.
Sounds good, man.
So let's start off with a review. To me, the most memorable thing in 2015 has to be the MVP race. We haven't seen an MVP race like that in a while. We had Russell Westbrook, Steph Curry, James Harden, all going at it, and they all probably could have won it too.
Yeah, the MVP race was especially exciting because they also had a players awards, which they voted on an MVP as well, and there were two different winners, which I thought was really interesting, but also it just showed you how close the MVP race really was.
Yeah, it definitely did, and you kind of wonder which award do the players think is more legit.
Yeah, that's a good question going forward. I know it's only been 1 year of the player awards, but moving forward, I think that'll be a really interesting discussion on which MVP is the legitimate one, the one that the players vote on or the one that the media votes on.
Yeah, very true. Another big thing 2015, I thought it was a great finals, Cavs versus Warriors. Definitely interesting too. I know a lot of people talked about the Warriors not being able to win the finals last year. They're a jump shooting team. They're not going to make it. The Cavs had a ton of injuries. LeBron put the team on his back. And then we saw someone who was 6'7" start at center for a finals team.
Yeah, the small ball was in full effect in the finals, and that's essentially what turned the series in favor of Golden State. Cleveland was playing solid defense, even though they were outmatched in a sense. But as soon as the Warriors went small, they basically blew the Cavs out towards the last, 3 games of the series.
Yeah, definitely a tough season to stomach for Cavs fans, losing Kyrie and Kevin Love and then taking a beating like that.
Yeah, one thing I know, the Warriors are on a tear to start this year. I mean, I can you really say it's a start of this year now? We're almost halfway through, and they've been awesome. But yeah. I think a lot of the talk that they had a lucky championship, which, I mean, all championships have luck. You luck out in one area or another. The Warriors just lucked out on not playing a completely healthy team throughout the postseason. But if you just look at their regular season record, they were damn good when they played everyone who was healthy. So I'm sure it had a little bit of effect on them winning a championship, but not to the extent to where Cleveland would have definitely beaten Golden State if they were 100% healthy.
Yeah, I think it would have been a great series. I don't think it's a lock because the Warriors are showing everybody this year. Last year just wasn't a fluke. They're a good-ass team.
Yeah, speaking of this year, I know we talked about the MVP really briefly, but I wanted to ask you a question. Who did you vote for last year?
Who is my vote? I
mean, we obviously don't have votes, but
I was doing a ton of podcasts with Harris around that time, and in the start, I probably was going to go with James Harden for a while, and then after the Warriors just kept cooking and carrying it to the end, I switched over to Steph Curry.
Yeah, my vote was for Harden, who won the Players Award. As we all know, Steph won the actual MVP and NBA MVP. But I just what Harden was able to do, helping the Rockets finish second in the West, and he was without a lot of his big guns for most of the season. I just thought that was incredible. There's no wrong answer. Curry had an incredible season, and the crazy thing is he's having a better year this year, and he's easily the runaway favorite for 15-16 MVP. We still have over half a season to go, but he has it on lockdown up to this point.
Yeah, and there's even been talk about him winning possibly most improved player, which is kind of crazy too.
Yeah, his stats are much better this year, especially his scoring stats.
Yeah, so that's definitely something to keep an eye on. It would be, I don't know for a fact, but I would think it would probably be the first time someone wins MVP and most improved player in the same season.
I feel like they won't give him most improved. I feel like someone like a CJ McCollum, even though he's mentioned multiple times that, hey, it's not an improvement thing, it's an opportunity thing. He's just getting the run now that Wes Matthews is gone, and they need his offensive ability on the court, especially with Lillard missing the last couple of games. CJ McCollum's been on a tear. So I think he's the favorite for most improved, even though he doesn't believe that he deserves it. Deserves is probably not the correct word, but he thinks it's just an opportunity thing.
Yeah, I kind of get what he's saying. But yeah, he's definitely a great choice too. Like you mentioned, Lillard's been out and he's been carrying that team. And he kind of making the Portland Trail Blazers a lot better than most of us thought they would be.
And the crazy thing is, do you even think Steph Curry's the most improved player on the Warriors? Because Draymond Green has 6 big-time triple-doubles this year.
Yeah, that's a great point. Draymond's been huge.
Yeah, Draymond looks a lot better. He looks like the second best player on the team for sure. Everyone would have said Klay Thompson last year, but Draymond Green has been incredible this year.
Yeah, I don't even think it's probably close anymore. Like, Clay's a great scorer and all, but he doesn't have the same impact that Draymond has across the board on the game.
Yeah, absolutely agree with that.
But so that pretty much reviews 2015 for us. But let's talk about some things that you want to see the NBA change for the 2016 season.
So I wrote a article on otgbasketball.com. You guys can go and check it out right now. It's what's the title? 3 resolutions for the NBA in 2016.
Yep.
I think that's what it's titled. But I basically go and talk about just some things I want changed from just from any sort of perspective, whether it's a consumer perspective for us fans, for media who gives out the information to us, and also for the NBA and that sort of realm of the experience. So my first resolution was about spotlight stats, and those are basically, I think I heard that term on Reddit, so I'm not sure who said it, but I want to give the credit there. And it's basically when you qualify your stats, or add qualifiers to statistics of certain players or teams just to make them stand out a little bit more, kind of put them in the spotlight. So for example, it could be, Steph Curry's the first player to average 25, 5 and 5, while his team is winning 70% of his games, while this is happening, while that is happening. So it really, by adding all those qualifiers, I think it just camouflages the stats. It's crafting a false reality in a sense, and kind of just giving you a lot of mumbo jumbo. And I understand why media does it. I write all about it in the article, so be sure to check that out if you want any more information on why I think we should stop with the spotlight stat consumption. Another resolution I had was for team-based announcers, just to be a little less biased. Well, I mean, it's you can be a fan of your team and still not sound stupid when you're calling a game. That's basically my only beef with league pass announcers. I really enjoy listening to some of the intricacies and the background information that they provide during their telecasts. But sometimes it goes over the top. Like, I understand that you're rooting for a team, but don't be dumb about it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you got to make it enjoyable for both sides, because it's not like your fans are the only one listening. I know some of these announcers are kind of crazy. I know personally when I listen to Boston, Toronto, Houston, they're all pretty entertaining just from that standpoint because they're so biased.
Yeah, I mean, Clyde Drexler on Houston's announced team is bad. Like he's just watch it and you'll understand what I'm talking about. But my final one that I listed on here was fouling. And most people, when they think about fouling in the NBA, they think of Hack-a-Shaq and that type of stuff. I don't think that's that big of an issue. I think fouling up 3 points at the end of games is the biggest issue. It kind of robs the fan of that crazy ending that could happen at any game. And the two examples I used were Brooklyn at Golden State from earlier this season when Brooklyn could have fouled up 3. They chose not to, and Golden State was able to tie the game. From a Brooklyn perspective, I know you're a Brooklyn fan. That sucks. They totally should have fouled. But watching the game as just a fan of the NBA, that was so much more exciting than watching a free throw contest to end out the game. And the second example I used was actually from the playoffs when Steph Curry hit that crazy shot from the corner to tie the game and send it to overtime against New Orleans. And that wouldn't have happened if New Orleans decided to foul up 3-2. They had a defensive possession where they could have fouled, and we would have been robbed of that classic 2015 playoff moment.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with the point. It's just I have no idea how they'll implement the rule.
Yeah,
it definitely makes it 100 times more exciting.
Yeah, it would make it more exciting. But they've done this before with rules. Got rid of hand checking to make it more free and open sort of game. They now allow you to advance the ball to half court after a timeout towards the end of games to give teams a real chance of winning or tying games by running a play, and you don't have to throw your Grant Hill to Christian Laettner full court pass to have that kind of moment. So I mean, I think it's possible. There are a lot of smart people in the NBA that could create a rule and have the referees enforce it. I personally have no real suggestions for you guys, but I'm not getting paid by the NBA to do that. So just a suggestion there.
We'll leave it to them.
Yeah. And a final resolution, which I didn't get to on the article, is what if the NBA players decided to have WWF, WWE type promos? How much fun would that be instead of hearing the typical, yeah, we respect them, we're just trying to get better every day? What if you heard one of these guys like Russell Westbrook talk like he was The Rock and about how he's going to dominate his opponent? I know it's all crafted in WWE, but how much fun would that be if a lot of these guys just didn't care anymore about that? They wanted to put on a show. They were entertainers. And the best way to do that, especially with media traveling with the team and following you guys around all the time, what if you did WWE style promos? How much fun would that be for everyone involved?
Yeah, it would definitely be interesting stuff. Like the Russell Westbrook Rock idea that you just made happen in my head. It's just so funny.
Yeah, it would be so good. And it'd be kind of difficult to do it in this day and age just because I feel like everyone is so sensitive. Like, oh yeah, we're gonna put that on the bulletin board. Yeah, don't disrespect us like that. Like the Warriors were talking about how when Milwaukee was celebrating, like, what are you guys talking about, dude? Like it didn't make much sense to me that they felt disrespected. Like, oh my God, get over it. Just beat them next time. You don't need to talk about it. But that I consider that whining.
Yeah.
If Draymond Green was like, yo, Giannis, the Greek freak ain't shit. If he said something like that in a WWE style promo, how good would that be?
That would be Vine City. That would have so many loops.
And he kind of did it when he was drunk at the Warriors parade with the who was he talking to? I think he was talking to Roz, one of the sideline reporters for the Warriors, and he basically was dissing the Cavs, and it was really fun. And I don't think anyone needs to be overly sensitive about it or anything like that. It's for the fans. It will only generate more buzz throughout the league. it only that will lead to more views for the networks and more money for the players in the future. So I think it's a good idea as long as people aren't too freaking sensitive about it. Get over that shit.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's complaining about something nowadays. But let's talk about your OTG rankings. This is a page that you really spend a lot of time on.
Yeah, so the rankings, how we come up with the rankings is we have 15 contributors to the site that all, and I'll give them the category. So it'll just be, give me your top 5 point guards. There won't be any suggestions on who should be on there. There's no word bank. It's whoever. It's completely write in for all these guys. So they'll give me their top 5 for each category, and then first place votes get 10 points. Second place votes get 8 points, and then it goes down from there, rounding up the top 5. And we just add them up, and whoever has the most points gets that spot.
So, did you have any big surprises this week with the rankings, or?
I am still kind of surprised that LaMarcus Aldridge is still a top 5 power forward according to the writers. He wasn't on my board. I had, let's see, who did I have? I had Draymond, Anthony Davis, Blake Griffin. I had Paul Millsap as my 4th best power forward. I think he's super underrated. And then I had DeMarcus Cousins. And I know we've had some issue with, is DeMarcus Cousins a forward? Is he a center? Well, the short answer is he's both. And don't trust me, go on the Kings website and look at how they list him. He's listed as both. And when Willie Cauley-Stein was healthy before he dislocated his finger, Cousins was starting at power forward. So we just included him there.
Yeah, nah, you made some great points, because I was going to mention Paul Millsap. I thought was somebody who probably could be on the underrated list too and make that top 5 power forward.
Yeah, another guy I like, Karl Anthony Towns is a top 5 center according to the writers, which I don't believe. I'd rather have Al Horford on there, but that's just me. Another guy who I think it was interesting because when we did the rankings in November, at the end of November, Kawhi was ahead of Paul George. But I think it should have been the other way around in November. I think Paul George should have been ahead of Kawhi. And it flipped at the end of December to where Paul George is ahead of Kawhi, which I thought should be flipped as well. Right. It was backwards. I think Kawhi has been the best small forward in the league this year. I would go with Kawhi. Let's see, who did I have? I'm pretty sure I had Kawhi 1. Right, Kawhi 1, Paul George 2, LeBron 3, Durant 4, and Melo 5. That's who I had. But I mean, it's so close between all those guys that it could be 1A, 1B, 1C, to be honest. Like it's
that close.
It's that close. So
I would say Kawhi's definitely number 2. I would probably put him over George for this month. I just feel like he's been so consistent, and people kind of just like sleep on the idea of his defensive impact. I don't think they realize how big it is.
Yeah, Kawhi is so good. He may not have all the skills that Paul George or Kevin Durant have offensively, but his impact is just as great for his team.
Yeah, and he's been shooting great this season. He's shooting over 40% from 3, right?
I'm not sure about that, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if he is.
Yeah, well, I thought the point guard rankings were great. One guy I was curious to wonder, did you get any votes for John Wall? I know he had a pretty good December, like 2011, something like that.
Yeah, that's funny because John Wall was in the rankings in November when he didn't have a great month. He had a much better December, and he dropped out of the rankings. So that's interesting to me. I would have had him on there. I don't know who I dropped though, to be honest. The point guard ranking is really tough. I think Chris Paul being at 4 is more of he hasn't played as many games as Damian Lillard, even though Lillard has been out the last 5 or 6 games. But this is his first group of games that he's missed in his entire career. He's played all 82 the previous 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting because he has been so healthy and now he's finally
He's been
starting to miss
so
some time.
healthy, and I think Chris Paul being behind Lillard is just a Lillard's played more this year, that sort of thing. But I definitely think Kyle Lowry deserves to be on there. If I were to take someone off, it'd probably be Lillard just because he hasn't played the last 5 games. But I mean, that's like forcing me to do something. I honestly
Yeah.
would not change this. I think it's fine. But yeah, to answer your question, John Wall was in the rankings in November, dropped out in December, but he's been playing better lately.
Yeah, for sure. The shooting guard rankings I thought were great. The only thing I'm just curious, like, do you think Jimmy Butler has the possibility of jumping James Harden this season or no?
Did you see Jimmy Butler play last night?
I did. That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, 40 points and a half. I think he definitely has the possibility to do that, especially with Rose out and more responsibility in Butler's hands to score from the perimeter. I think he can put up numbers, especially in January, that surpass James Harden's numbers. Even
Well,
though
and then,
James Harden is recognized as the best shooting guard, even though Klay Thompson thinks he is, according to our rankings, he is not. Uh,
yeah.
He's not the best shooting guard. He's not the second best player on his team anymore. So, yeah, I think Jimmy Butler could definitely take that one spot. Another person I'm surprised with is Andrew Wiggins. I don't think he's a top 5 shooting guard quite yet. Who would I put? I still think Wade is better than Andrew Wiggins at this point.
Yeah, I think Wade's playmaking ability kind of separates him because he does a lot with the pick and roll for the Heat, I feel like. So Wiggins
Yeah, like
is not at that level.
people have been sleeping on Wade, thinking he's old from for them watching him play with LeBron in Miami a couple of years ago when he wasn't quite as healthy. But he's been really healthy the last 2 seasons, and he's been good. He hasn't been 25 a night sort of D Wade from 2006 to 2010, but he's been really good. I would have him on there.
Yeah, and Wade's definitely fun to watch. He's always hitting these like crazy turnaround jump shots, finishing the paint with the scoop. So he's fun to watch too.
Any person, I know we're going to have this as a category for next time, but any person you thought was overrated in any of the rankings?
Well, in the centers, I would probably agree with you and take out Karl Anthony Towns. I know you said Al Horford. I was thinking maybe even did my guy Brook Lopez get any mentions? He's picked it up his last 7 games.
Center's a tough spot too because you have Al Horford, you have Brook Lopez, you have Marc Gasol there too, and those 3 in that order were right behind Karl Anthony Towns, only by a couple of points. It was like a 4-point difference between Towns and Horford, so that could go either way next time.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Yeah, and you mentioned Mark too. I'm surprised he kind of started off slow. He's starting to pick it up a little bit. The Grizzlies are kind of a weird team to get a feel for.
Correct.
And then I agreed with you on the power forward point. I actually would probably put Draymond Green number 1 in my power forward rankings. Just because he's having such a great impact on the game, triple doubles everywhere. I think, I don't know what it was, maybe over the last 8 games, he's almost averaging a triple double. So
Yeah, I mean, at any stretch, being close to that is great. I would not be opposed to that at all. I don't believe I had him as my. Oh, I did have him as my top power forward. So yeah, I completely agree with you. My bad.
yeah,
I am on your team here.
His impact is just so crazy. I mean, one thing that I personally just love, like I know it's not the craziest thing, but I love when he just takes a rebound and just brings it right down the floor and starts a fast break. It just catches the other team off guard so much.
Yeah, he loves those tough full court rim to rim kind of layups that he likes taking. Doesn't really get too many dunks on that, but he does get his layups. But yeah, I'm with you on Draymond being the number 1 power forward this year. That's not to discount Anthony Davis, who's probably the best power forward overall, if you want to add in everything. But this year, he has not been, in my opinion. I think Draymond Green has been a lot better.
Yeah, Green has been better. Obviously, Anthony Davis is still more talented.
Of course, yeah.
But for now, definitely have to go with Draymond Green.
Right.
So for the top 5 players, I would maybe even think about throwing Kawhi and Draymond in there. It would definitely be tough. I'd have to really like sit down and think about it. But I think definitely I'd put Kawhi in the top 5 as the overall top 5 player.
I agree with you there. I would take Anthony Davis out and maybe even Paul George out. I think Kawhi has been the third best player this year. I think it in my personal opinion, it's Steph Curry, Russell Westbrook, Kawhi Leonard. I don't even know if LeBron makes it in my top 5 for this year. He has been shooting really poorly from anywhere outside the paint. And
Yeah.
I think that, I mean, he's still putting up his numbers. He's still being pretty efficient, not Miami efficient, but he's still being pretty efficient. Hasn't had his full cast of characters up until just recently. But I don't know. I feel like there have been better players this year than LeBron James.
Yeah, he's definitely had some tough games. And like you mentioned, his shooting has been pretty terrible. And I like looked a little bit more into it. I didn't do like in depth, but I saw like on wide open threes, he's shooting like under 20%. So
He needs to put the headband back on, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, throw the headband back on. Hopefully, it gives him a little bit of touch. But then the top 5 underrated. I mean, this is like a hard one. I don't think you can really take anybody out because I'm agreeing that all these guys are underrated. Just some other guys that I probably would think that are underrated would probably be like Paul Millsap, like you mentioned before.
Correct.
I think your guy Chris Bosh is pretty underrated personally.
Oh, I agree with that too. Chris Bosh has been awesome, and he's the best photo bomber in the league. Underrated.
Yeah, underrated. Nikola, how do you say his last name? Vucevic?
From Orlando?
Yeah, I think he's pretty underrated too. Yeah.
Nikola Vucevic. Yeah, he's good. He's a really good offensive player. Like he scores a lot and he doesn't shoot a lot of free throws.
Yeah, he has a nice touch
in live action.
I think also my guy Thad Young is kind of underrated.
Yeah, I wish he would play for a winning team, man. Jeez, he played in Philly for some decent teams, but I want him to play on a legitimate contender.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see because Thad Young does a lot of the little things. But since he's on the Nets, it obviously doesn't show as much because they don't win. But he's over there making a ton of plays, hustling. He's improved his rebounding, and he's just like done a lot of work to his game. So you got to respect that.
The guy I had in my top spot for underrated didn't even make the list, and that's Will Barton. And he's been for Denver, and he's been incredible this year.
Yeah, he has. He's been awesome. He has had some crazy games off the bench for them. And he's Will the Thrill. He's exciting to watch.
Yeah, he's really fun. But for the rest of the rankings, and be sure to check him out on otgbasketball.com. There's a little icon right in the center of the screen, kind of towards the top, which you can click and it'll take you to the rankings page. And feel free to mention us on Twitter on how you feel about the rankings, who is underrated, who's overrated, whatever you want, whatever beef you have, just throw it on Twitter, and we'll see if we can get back to you on that.
Yeah, definitely want your guys' feedback. Before we get out of this, though, I had one more guy. I thought that possibly,
yeah, go for it. My bad.
Top 5 shooters. I'd probably throw Kevin Durant in there.
Oh, I agree with you there too.
I think he's over 50% on field goal percentage and over 40% on 3. And when KD's cooking, he's cooking.
Who would you take out of the top 5 list? Because I have someone in mind who I'm surprised made it, but
I mean, I haven't looked at Bradley Beal's stats in a while, so I'm not sure about him, but I'd probably take out Dirk, I guess, just because I think KD is better.
Okay, see, I would take out Beal just because he hasn't played.
Yeah, well, that makes sense too.
He's been hurt, especially in December. He's missed a lot of games. I would definitely take him out, put KD in there. Surprisingly, Kyle Korver's not on the list, and also surprisingly, he's been terrible. He was terrible in December. Wasn't shooting like we have seen Kyle Korver shoot in the past.
And some of those shots were ugly.
Yep. All right, let's get to games of the week. And so for these games, I like to go look at the schedule, and I only want to put each team on once a week. So if Golden State is playing the Cavs and the Clippers in 1 week, you'll only see one of those games in my games of the week. And even though you will probably watch both just because it's Golden State and everyone likes watching Golden State, killing ratings all over networks. So that's my take on it. I like to pick matchups that I think will be entertaining, close games, and also have a decent storyline behind them. Could have an impact on the playoff picture. could possibly be a game that we look back and say, oh, this is the game that if OKC won over New Orleans, they could be in the playoffs. I'm trying to find those types of games that can tell us something going forward. So with that in mind, our first game of the week, Toronto at Cleveland tonight.
Yeah, this is definitely a good game. Toronto's been maybe the second best team in the East at some points. We mentioned Kyle Lowry playing great, but the Cavs are finally getting healthy. I think Kyrie's, I don't know if he's going to get his minute restriction lifted tonight, but I heard it's coming soon. So I'm going to go with the Cavs.
Right. And I forgot to mention this before, but our overall rankings or overall record for the year, I'm 25-15, you're 20-20. So you finally at 500.
God bless.
Yeah, let's. I'm with you there. I'm with the Cavs as well, even though I really like Toronto. But last year they only beat Cleveland once, and that was in Cleveland, surprisingly. But early in the year, I think the Cavs take this one. So on Tuesday on NBA TV, I believe this is probably the fan night game. But Milwaukee at Chicago in a rematch of last year's first round series.
This one is like so tough because Milwaukee seems to like get up for certain games and play really well. Obviously, they beat the Warriors, and the Bulls are dealing with some injuries. So I'm going to go with the Bucks.
After I saw Jimmy Butler last night go for 40, I'm picking the Bulls. The Bucks defense will give up 40 plus to him again tonight, or again on Tuesday night. On Wednesday on ESPN, Memphis at OKC.
This one I think is probably the easiest of the three for me. I'm going to go with OKC.
Yeah, I'm going with OKC as well. I like the Jeff Green dynamic in this game as a former member of the Thunder.
Yeah.
And I think he can guard Kevin Durant a little bit. I think that's a sneaky play, even though I think Russell Westbrook is going to go absolutely off in this game.
It's crazy when you play OKC. It's like, oh, yeah, we'll hold KD in check, but then we have to worry about Westbrook. Oh, we'll hold Westbrook in check. Now we got to worry about KD.
Yeah, it's pick your poison.
Exactly.
It hasn't really worked out for OKC in the playoffs that way, but that's on Billy Donovan. He has to figure that out when spring rolls around. All right, on Thursday, the Lakers surprisingly make it again. I like watching Lakers games sometimes. On TNT, Thursday night, Lakers at Kings.
I'm going to go with the Kings. The Lakers have been exciting. I think they're possibly on a win streak right now. I know they beat the Suns pretty bad last night, but the Suns did make a run late, and they beat Boston. So,
yeah, they beat Boston, Philly, and who did they play last night? You just mentioned it.
Phoenix.
I think they're on a 3-game win streak going into this week, which is surprising. I don't know if Kobe is going to play. He sat out the other night with a shoulder issue. I'm going to go with the upset here and pick the Lakers.
I mean, it's a possibility. So
I mean, it's not really a possibility, but I'm just picking them. No, I think these two matched up in some of the best basketball I've seen. Best basketball I remember as a kid. So I'm hoping we get one of those classic games.
Yeah, very true.
All right, Saturday on League Pass, Miami at Utah.
I'm going to go with Miami just because Utah's really banged up right now. I know Derek Favors dealing with back spasms. Rudy Gobert's not back yet. Well, Alec Burks is out. So the banged up team in Utah.
Yeah, really unlucky with injuries for them. They lost Dante Exum too at the beginning of the year, over the summer, I want to say. But yeah, I'm going with Miami as well. And our final game, Sunday on League Pass, Indiana at Houston.
This is a great game, I think. This should be a fun one. Both these teams shoot a ton of threes. Paul George and James Harden will probably get up for this game. I'm just going to go with the Pacers because they play more defense than Houston.
Agreed with that. They do play more defense than Houston, but Houston's been pretty good lately. Quietly been pretty good. I think people just completely wrote them off after their terrible start and firing Kevin McHale. So I'm gonna pick the Rockets in this game.
Yeah, the Rockets. I mean,
but I don't have any confidence in that pick. So whatever happens, happens. If you want to read more about any of these games and some of the background storylines that I have for them, just check them out on otgbasketball.com. There's a Games of the Week icon at the top right. Just click that, and it'll take you right to it.
Yep. Definitely check that out. And like before, you can check out the rankings. We don't do FanDuel on the pod anymore, but it's on the site daily, so you can definitely check that out.
Yeah, make sure you win some money. Nick always has some good FanDuel plays.
Yeah,
I haven't won money in a long time, but that's probably because I haven't listened to you, so I should probably get back on that.
The last 3 free lineups I posted all finished in the green, so keep an eye out for those. And thank you guys for listening.
Yeah, thank you for listening. Be sure to tune in next week around the same time. We'll be back up with another podcast. Thanks for listening to the NBA Outlet.